here,
This
but
conference will now be recorded.
I've got a sheet up here if we want to go ahead and take an initial stab. Some ideas.
So what we've done previously, I believe, right, is gathering ideas in by the end of the year, submitting those into the spreadsheet, and then in January, it's been that we've been voting, I believe.
Yeah, that's correct, Jessica.
Yeah.
And what we did was we went through some changes in the way we did voting. We started, 2 years back by doing plain ranking. Last year we changed the format to allocation of 100 points across however many ideas you have. So that way, if you like two ideas, you can give them equal weighting, and that seemed to work out better than hard ranking, which does not allow for choosing multiple ideas which are equally strong.
Yeah, or weighting them, right? Weighting the ideas
Right.
that you have. Yeah.
Exactly. And Bijan, what we always did was, I think there is a sheet from last year. I think there is a master sheet which tracks all the ideas, including the ones which did not make it through. And sometimes it's a matter of timing, or it's matter of maturity of the idea. So it also makes sense to revisit some of the ideas which did not make it prior year. So that one consolidated Excel sheet has all of that information, and it's maintained from year to year. So you might want to use that as a starting point, and then that becomes very easy. Hopefully you have access to that sheet.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Bijan, if you don't have that available, I can share that with you.
I looked at it a while back. Let me try to find it and open it again.
Some of these initiatives take much more than a year to complete. Do we graduate them before we start new initiatives, or do we keep adding new initiatives every year?
So CMAC, I think the idea is actually just to do this exercise on an annual basis. It does not mean that everything has to if there's not enough resources to run an idea, then they don't become a strategic initiative. But in some cases, even while the other ideas are in flight, there's enough momentum for people to pursue. So it's purely community driven. If there are enough people to push an idea forward, then there's no point or no reason to not do that, because you already have a quorum of people who want to work on it. And if there's not enough people, then there's nothing to work on.
Right. So I think what you're suggesting is that ideas that are put together in this sheet for ranking need to come from a community of people that are already willing to work on it, right? And not
Right.
just a wish
So
list of these are the things that we need to cover. We're looking for people.
Or
These should
they,
be.
yeah. Sorry, CMAC, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I completed my thought.
It doesn't have to be either. I mean, it's great if it's community driven, and stuff that is already kind of in the works, right? That's one way, but it's also, it doesn't have to be something that is already going on, right? It could be a gap that has been identified of connections that needs to be made by between different projects, as well. So it's I just wanted to say, please don't limit it to that. It might be that things will be pushed out because it's not enough support at this point, right? Just due to that there always are limited resources. But at least if the ideas are documented, and if it's something that can be revisited the next year in that case, right? Just want to make sure that we have a record on it, and that we moving forward when resources are there in that case, right?
And to support what Jessica's saying, in some cases, the foundation can start to put energy to try to build a groundswell to create the community. I think a good example of what we did in 2022 around the optics work that we wanted to solidify and support was go out and start to build a community around optics by being at OFC and having a track at Global Summit. So I think we should also allow for that way to get some initiatives started.
Right. And one other thought I have, I think we did this 2 years back. Cliff, you were, I think, not part of OCP, but you were involved in making it happen. In fact, you made the presentation to OCP, which was a review of an external perspective of data center technologies which are important. And the entire volunteering leadership attended that call. I remember there were more than 50 people on the call, which you presented. So I think some of those things also are a good exercise as a part of the process of trying to do the strategic initiative, because it informs the entire OCP community of an external perspective. And perhaps that is also part of this effort, which requires time, because you have to find an external company to come and give a presentation and so on and so forth.
For sure. And so we could look at that, DJ, for sure. Although now that I'm part of the foundation and Bijan is here, it is possible that we could handle that in-house as well if we have the bandwidth. That's something we have to take back to take a look at.
Right. Yeah, I'm just sharing all the things we did in past. We can always change for this year. I'm just giving a context to Bijan on all the various ways we collected the ideas. That's all.
But I do agree that some sort of gap analysis, looking at the market, comparing it against the projects is definitely worthwhile to make sure we're not missing anything.
Right, exactly. And CMAC, this is also an exercise which just gives people new ideas to think about, even if not everything becomes, not anything becomes strategic initiative, it's just a method of collecting some interesting information from various sources.
So Bijan, I just saw your chat. I shared the strategic concept proposal sheet in the chat there, and it does have a 2022 tab. Is that the worksheet that you're describing?
Let me check.
And then while Bijan's checking for that, folks, I'll go ahead and share this out in an email with everyone as well. But it is in the chat. I've added a tab for 2023. I wasn't a part of this procedure last year, but my understanding is that we'll be using this tab, this 2023 tab, to both put in proposals for strategic initiatives, and then over here in the columns to the right is where we can do that weighting. And Jessica, I think that's what you were describing in terms of weighting everything. You have 100 points to allocate across all the different proposals, and this sheet will factor all those scoring in. Down here at the bottom, right there, I think it's got the formulas written in.
Yep, that should end up to 100 points like we did in 2022.
Perfect. So from a timeline perspective then, folks, and then specifically asking the IC co-chairs here. Do we want to give everyone until the end of the year to make proposals and then commence voting then in January? That's seems to be what I heard earlier.
So, Michael, what I would suggest is I kind of get the sense that perhaps the foundation and Bijan and everyone needs to get together separately to just kind of discuss this, because there are a few things we talked about, whether to bring in external perspective, all of that. So why don't foundation kind of discuss this based on what was done in past and what makes sense now, with us being in December, etc., and come back with a proposal to the IC for IC to kind of deliberate on, rather than right now ad hoc we give a proposal on what we should do. We would rather have foundation come back and say, okay, we understand what we did last year based on where we are today, and based on everything else going on, based on the comments CMAC made, does it make sense, does it not make sense, all of those factors, come back with a view which we can all kind of deliberate on. Because you can come back and say, hey, you know what, it doesn't make sense to do it right now. We need 3 months. We'll start the process and we'll continue in March. That's fine as well. Whatever be the case, but let's have a deliberation within the foundation on this, because we all realize that this is something which we didn't plan for in the call today. So perhaps foundation has to spend some time thinking about it, talking, discussing. Cliff has some knowledge, Bijan has some knowledge, Bill, everyone has some knowledge. So you guys collect that and then come back with a plan which we can all talk about.
I think that makes sense, DJ. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we've been kind of talking internally about what we wanted to do for 2023 for some time. And so I think we're in alignment, DJ. That's exactly what we want to do when I come back and, share our plan, and then we'll get you guys to kind of refine it and help us with it. I don't know how long that'll take, but what we'll do is we'll just keep communicating, and we'll kind of, everyone will follow along, and we'll get this, knocked out as soon as we can.
Right. Perfect.
That sounds good. And during this time too, then basically heads up for IC members, please gathering ideas, right?
Exactly. Because yes, if you need me to prompt you guys, I can. If not, just you could just send me your ideas, or send and copy Michael, or vice versa, and we'll just knock it out like that.
Yeah. Well, I certainly think we don't want to do a hurry up offense on this one. So given that it's early December, I think let's take Michael, maybe you could schedule some time for an internal discussion within the foundation, and we can have a communication to the IC. Since there's no meeting, maybe something before the end of the year if possible, and in the first meeting back in the beginning of the year, kick off the process. I don't think we'd be hurting anything to take a little extra time in the beginning of January to work through this and put a solid plan in place to look at 2023 initiatives.
Agree. We just want to encourage everyone to submit their ideas, and we'll have a window of time that we'll accept them, but we should start soon on accepting everyone's ideas.
Yeah, that's true. Even if we don't have a totally perfectly formulated plan, we could certainly open up the spreadsheet to the community or whoever we typically would. I believe it goes out to, correct me if I'm wrong, DJ, last time did it not get open to the entire community, or was it just project leads?
So I think the way we did this was it was done through project leads, and project leads were involved in funneling the idea from their respective community into the representative of the projects who are in IC. So it was like a funneling process rather than a sheet which was open to hundreds and hundreds of people. Okay,
well then, let's give us a moment to discuss within the foundation, but
sure, yeah.
It doesn't mean, I think, how shall I put it? there's no reason we can't do two things in parallel. One is figure out exactly what the process is to decide on the strategic initiatives, and gathering the inputs, I think, can go on in parallel. So we can be quicker on the gun, do quicker on the mark
Exactly.
to put that
And
in.
you know, Bijan has joined, so Bijan can put his own thought process and his own fingerprint. Uh, and I wholeheartedly agree with what Cliff said. We don't want to rush this process. There's no reason to just do it just because it's end of the year. Doing it right is better than trying to push it through, because obviously the community is already busy with many things. So Bijan and Foundation, take your time, think through it. If you want, discuss it with the board also. I don't know if it makes sense, but we can always improve. We can always iterate on what was done in past. We don't have to do what we did in past. So think of it from a very, clean slate perspective of, okay, this is something we need to do. Considering everything else going on, what's the best way to do this? And then we can all discuss that, and I'm sure we can all work around that suggestion.
Thank you. Completely agree. Completely agree. Good approach.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, talking on mute there. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you guys for bringing this up. I'll go ahead and schedule an internal meeting in the next couple of weeks. I know Bijan and Cliff, you guys will be in London next week, so may wait until you are both back. But we'll get that out and then share with the incubation team and the committee there.
I think the week of the 12th, Michael, would be great.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so we've got about 15 minutes here. Are there any other opens we'd like to tackle prior to the start of the presentation session? I'm not sure if we now have time to really dive into the templates, and maybe we can do that over email, and then I'll set up another call for a smaller group as well.
Michael, do you just want to keep advertising it? The fact that we need help from all project leads and sub-project leads even to do a good job on the templates.
Absolutely, yep. We got the original call to action there. And Bijan, I just saw your message. I'll send you over that link. It's actually in the chat, Bijan, if you just want to grab it from there.
Maybe, Michael, just showing where the templates currently are, where they preside, so we can go in and just have a look at them.
Yep. They're in the IC folders. I'll share that again at the end of this meeting here.
Okay.
And I think that what I'd like to do is start pointing folks back a little bit to the actual incubation committee wiki. So that's another place where I'll post those, and I'll post the link to that wiki here in the chat.
Right. At the server project, we started talking about it, but we still didn't have enough structure to guide the discussion yet. But hopefully through this process, we will be able to do that.
Great. So I've got a couple of actions to send a few things out to folks. I'll do that during this next phase of the meeting. If there aren't any other opens here, we can definitely give everyone a chance to grab a quick cup of coffee. I'm going to grab a little bit more ibuprofen before we start the next phase of the meeting. All right, yeah, why don't we go ahead and resume in just 10 minutes?
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.